Hi everyone. Looking back on the semester, I feel like I've learned a lot about what counseling really looks like. Coming into the course, I knew that listening and communicating were important, but I didn't realize how intentional counselors had to be with the way they respond and ask questions, or use silence and just building trust with the client in general. One of my biggest goals at the beginning of the semester was to become more comfortable using counseling skills and to feel less nervous and to gain more confidence. I also wanted to learn how to have a proper conversation with the client without feeling like I always needed to have the perfect response. I feel like I've definitely grown in that area, even though there are still things that I want to keep working on. And there are some things that I definitely need to practice a lot more. One of the biggest skills I developed was active listening. Um, Early in the semester, I noticed that I sometimes spent too much time thinking about what I was going to say instead of focusing on what the client was saying. I started getting better at slowing down and really listening. I learned to pay attention to not only what the client was saying, but also their tone and body language, or things that they might have a harder time saying. I also became more comfortable with paraphrasing and reflecting feelings. Um, Reflecting feelings and reflecting meaning are two of the main skills that I need to work on the most, I feel. But paraphrasing and reflecting feelings, they help me show the client that I was listening without just repeating exactly what they were saying, so that they understood that I was understanding their meaning behind it. Um, I think reflections for me are hard because I don't always know how deep to go with them. I don't want to push too far, but I also don't know when I'm not pushing enough. Sometimes it was easier to reflect the facts that someone was saying, but not so much the emotion. Open-ended questions were another skill I worked on a lot. At the beginning, I think I relied on questions more, and even towards the end, I still relied more on questions. But I think that's because it felt easy to keep the conversation moving by asking questions. Um, I learned through feedback that asking too many questions can make a session feel more like an interview or an interrogation. So I started trying to use more paraphrasing and summaries. I also learned that silence is okay. That was probably the most uncomfortable skill for me to use. If there was a pause, my first instinct was to ask another question or to say something else. But over time, I realized that sitting in the silence gave the client more time to think about what they were saying and expand on their own thoughts. And I think that's really important in counseling. One of the most important lessons I think that I learned this session or this semester is I'm not becoming a counselor just to fix someone's problems or giving them advice. Um, when someone tells me something that they're struggling with, my natural response is finding a solution, fixing their problems. But counseling is more about helping the client explore their own emotions and feelings and helping them make decisions for themselves. Empathy is also really important to be for counseling. I learned that I don't have to have gone through the same situations that the clients have gone through, but I can still show them that I care and that I am trying to understand what they're going through. This one I feel like was really easy for me to do because I'm naturally an empathetic person. Another major challenge throughout the semester was getting out of my own head during the sessions. I would start worrying about whether I was using the right skill or saying the right thing, and then I wasn't present with the client. As the semester went on, I started becoming more comfortable trusting myself and letting the conversation happen naturally. I feel like that came more when I got to know the client better. My confidence was better. I knew how to talk to them. I also have learned how important self-awareness is in counseling. As counselors, we all have our own experiences and values and opinions. I've realized that it's more important to recognize those things so that they don't take over the counseling relationship. The session needs to be client focused and what they need and not what I think that they should do. Again, I still have many things that I need to work on, and I want to continue getting more comfortable with silence, working on reflections, and becoming more confident during sessions. I also want to work on slowing down and not feeling like I always have to move the conversation forward.